work in construction, you might deal with fire stop. Yeah, I know, you probably hate it. If you do, you probably hate it because you've had headaches in the past. And let's face it, it seems like fire stop problems only pop up at the end of a project, and that is when your schedule and your budget are already maxed out. Does that sound familiar? Let me ask you another question. Do you assume that if the inspector doesn't tell you that there's a problem with your fire stop, that you've got it all done right? I want to share a story with you that highlights just how dangerous this way of thinking can be. But before we get to that, I haven't even introduced myself yet. My name is Sharon, and I'm with Halpert Life Safety Consulting. Our team has been on over $19 billion in new construction in the last 14 years. And I'm talking about everything from Type 5 wood frame construction to multi-billion-dollar resorts, hospitals, airports, and all sorts of other amazing projects. Now, when it comes to fire stop, I have to warn you, I totally geek out over this stuff. And the best part is that people that I've worked with in the past tell me that they're able to build better after we're done working a project together. They say it's because of me, but not really. It's not. They're able to build better because they want to build better, and I just happened to show them what that looks like. I always say that I can fix ignorance, but I can't fix apathy. If you don't know, I can teach you. But if you don't care, I don't think I can help you. If you would like to have a way to reduce all of these fire stop headaches and know that you're taking steps to reduce your liability as well, if you're curious about whether or not we can help, just shoot me an email and we'll find some time to chat. So tell me, have you ever worked on a project that was a huge success? If you have, then you and I both know it didn't happen by accident. Successful projects have a tremendous amount of planning. And guess what? Fire stop is no different. I mean, let's face it, people don't really plan to fail. Your plumber, for example, will have a plan for their scope, and the general contractor will have a line item in their schedule for all the different steps in that plan for every single trade. Now, is there a line item for fire stop? Is there a plan for the fire stop? I could ask the same question of every single one of your trades. They may have sent in a fire stop submittal, but do they ever look at it, or do they just slap stuff in the hole and hope it's good? Hope the inspector doesn't catch them doing something wrong. Here's what I see happen time and time again on projects. The trades self-perform the work, and they don't have a plan for the fire stop. Now, if you fail to plan, you can plan to fail, right? You know that's true. So why would you expect fire stop to be any different? If you don't have a plan for the fire stop, how do you expect to not have problems? Does that sound familiar? A fire stop plan that's developed during the design phase can eliminate a lot of issues because we can clarify a lot of things that are often missed. And it can help your trades bid the project properly so that you can avoid change orders that may happen when somebody leaves something out of their bid and the contract team didn't catch it. Let me give you one example. Let's say you have a project that has smoke barriers. Who's responsible for reviewing the plans and finding the smoke barriers and then reviewing the fire stop submittals to ensure that the details that the team plans to use are going to comply with the code requirements that are imposed on the project with smoke barriers? Oh wait, do you know what I'm talking about? In the grand scheme of building codes, this is a relatively new thing. So just in case you're not familiar with it, let me take a minute and explain, just to be sure that we're on the same page here. When you look at your project and it has smoke barriers, that means that the fire-rated assembly has to have a minimum of 1 hour, but it might be more depending on the design. But on top of the hourly rating, it also has to have something called an L rating, which means that that assembly can limit airflow, or in this case, smoke movement. When you're looking at a fire stop detail for a smoke barrier, you need to have a detail that has an L rating, and the code requirements for penetrations are different from the requirements for fire-rated joints. You'll find the information at the top of the fire stop detail similar to this one right here. Then you have to make sure that the total air leakage doesn't exceed the code requirements. If you have smoke barriers on your project, you might need some help with this. Okay, so let's say you don't have smoke barriers on your project. Well, you'll likely have movement issues. Your structural engineer is going to call out just how much movement is needed. Have you ever had a meeting where you have the general contractor, the structural engineer, maybe the architect, the drywall company, the mason, the fire stop contractor, and they're all in the same room, ready to make a plan to ensure that the fire stop details that are submitted can actually be installed in a way that they can meet the movement requirements that were called out by the structural engineer for that project? Did you know that you have to compare the movement requirements of the building to the joint size? Now, let's say we're talking about the head of wall on a fire resistance rated wall. This could be a gypsum wall or it could be a block wall. If the joint is too small or the movement requirements of the fire stop system are too restrictive, then you can run into a situation where you might install the fire stop perfectly according to the tested and listed detail, and you could still have a liability. Do you check on this on your projects? Somebody should. Who do you think is responsible for it? I'm really curious to know what you think. So let me know in the comments below. Now, in my experience, not many projects have a meeting like this. If you don't have a plan for this, then how do you expect to succeed? But don't worry, if they don't pick it up in plan review, then you're off the hook. Or, well, maybe you should blame the design team, or the trades, or the general contractor. Yeah, that's not really the case anymore. Imagine if you were involved in that project in Miami, the Surfside condo that collapsed. That was built 40 years ago. And everyone is getting pulled back into the project. Well, into the litigation. The truth is, insurance companies and lawyers are becoming more savvy and they're starting to look more closely at the little things that are often overlooked. They're checking to ensure that the right products are used and that someone took the time to connect all of these little dots with all of these details. Making sure that the field work matches the paperwork. And if you aren't reviewing all of these details and so much more before your team starts to build and you want help, shoot me an email with your project info and phone number, and let's talk about how Halpert Life Safety Consulting can help on your project. In fact, I was just talking to a guy the other day who told me a story. They were working on a high-rise project and the shaft walls were closed in up to the 14th floor. When they got to the 15th floor, they had a new jurisdictional inspector who walked onto the project, and he noticed that they were closing up the shaft walls without fire stopping these little metal braces that were going through the wall. I imagine that they were pipe supports or maybe something related to the elevator. Possibly it was a framing member, something a little like this. But regardless, there was a hole in a fire resistance rated wall that was not protected. And he called me to ask if that was a problem. I mean, they never called him out on it before, so he assumed that it was okay. Remember, I asked you about this in the beginning. If the inspector doesn't say that you have a problem, do you assume that you don't have any problems? After a quick talk where I explained the fire test standards and then how that relates to the codes and the importance of shafts in life safety and what could possibly happen if there were a fire and the building remains the way that they currently have it built. Let's just say he had a new understanding and he realized that he actually did have a problem. And even though the previous inspector didn't catch it, it doesn't remove him from responsibility. Now, this is an example of the things that we can help a project team avoid, and we have some interesting ways to get the teams to buy into this. Do you think you could use some help planning your next project a little bit better? This picture was taken by my buddy Chris on a project that we worked together a few years back. When someone manages to literally paint themselves into a corner like this, you kind of have to wonder, was this all planned out or was it completely unexpected? I'm not sure which is the case here. All I can say is, do you want to leave your fire stop installation up to guys like this? You want to make sure that there is a solid plan, and you want to make sure that the plan gets followed, because how many times do you tell your team the plan, but they don't really understand it? They don't understand why this, that, and the other thing are important. Then you may have trouble getting buy-in. If you need help with that, give me a call, because I'm looking for project teams who want to get this right and know that they could use a little extra help. So, if you think fire stop is a headache, and maybe after talking about smoke barriers and building movement, it just got to be an even bigger headache, don't worry, because if you want to get this right, we have the perfect prescription for your project team. Shoot me an email with your project information and we'll find some time to chat. But maybe you aren't ready to go all in and hire a consultant to help. That's okay too. If you just want to learn more, I want to invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to our YouTube channel where we have a whole slew of videos designed to help you understand some of this a little bit better. You can visit our blog where we've been posting since 2015, so there is a lot of content there. Or you could check out our training videos that are available on our website as well. All of these tools are available to help you build better. Just remember, if you want to build better, Halpert Life Safety Consulting is here to help. I look forward to hearing from you.